All right, we're gonna get started. Hello to anybody watching. Hello to anybody watching after the fact. It's David at Bearski here today. I'm joined again by Brandon. Is it Duplessis?
Duplessis.
Duplessis. Again from Four Star Chicago Sports. I think at this point we've talked about it. Brandon's probably gonna, try to be a weekly guest if he can, if he has the time, and join us every week just to talk about some fantasy football. A quick little Tuesday episode every week whenever we can. We'll be playing our fantasy sports anyway. We may as well talk about them. So, Brandon, how's it going, man? Any updates from your end?
I'm drafted in 2 weeks on yesterday on Labor Day. But besides that, man, not too much. How about you? How you doing, Dave?
Good as well, man. I think that was kind of where I had mentioned to you that's kind of where I wanted to start because we were, with you, me, and Dustin, we're talking about kind of like the people we had and the people we liked and all that stuff, and we finally get to practice what we preach and see how much we followed our own advice, and just kind of wanted to start with talking about how our fantasy drafts went, how did they go, anything that you want to care to comment on, or anybody you got that you were kind of, oh, well, this is the one I was talking about. This kind of worked out. Anything of note that you had to mention?
Well, I just want to say this, man. It just mirrors the day after drafts. Like when your last draft is over, it's like the day after Christmas. You know what I mean? Like I love fantasy football, man, but I live and breathe for drafts, dude. Once the drafts are over, it's like I enjoy winning money if I'm in a money league, but it's like the draft is the thing to me in fantasy I enjoy most. It always breaks my heart when it's passed.
It is literally like Christmas because you're hyped up for like 2 to 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and that 30 seconds of ripping the paper off is all of it, and then it's just like I almost enjoyed the paper ripping more than anything
Yeah,
else.
for sure, man. And I pride myself, like I'm always one of the guys who makes the least amount of moves in a fantasy league. So I pride myself in the way I draft. So once that's passed, man, I'm like, I guess it's kind of pride. I'm like, I can't show off anymore. Draft's fine.
I'm kind of the same, but I almost do it out of laziness and not to sound like a douche again or an arrogant person, but like I usually never end up anywhere near the top of the waiver wire week to week.
Yeah,
And so
when you're
I
better
I'm
team, yeah.
if I'm in 10 to 12 men, I'm always like 8 or 9, and anybody worth taking. I'll
Well,
always wait till Thursday or Friday, and then I'll just kind of pick up my replacement if somebody's hurt or something like that.
you do rolling.
Rolling as in
Like the team who made the last waiver ad goes to the bottom of the list. You guys just do by record. Whoever's first place is bottom.
We do record and then points that week, basically.
Wow. See, I don't like.
So like
I did record once, man. It felt like the person who drafted well was being punished the whole year. So I do it rolling now, where the last guy who made a waiver drops to the bottom of the list.
So the one time I did it, and Paulie, this is why he quit being GM, because people got pissed at him, and it was my favorite thing is that he gave a set amount of roster moves per year.
Yeah,
I want to say it was like 10 or something like that.
I got egregiously bitched out from a lot of people, so I finally folded, man. But I used to give 5 ads a week. I don't know what it totals to, but
I think Paulie gave us 2 ads per week. It was amazing. I loved it because people couldn't just drop and add and all that stuff.
I think the way Yahoo, if you just set up a standard league, I think it's 5 ads per week, and for years I had never changed it, and then I finally eliminated the ads, or maybe it's 3, I don't know. Sorry, man, rambling. What's going on?
No. I think that's kind of where I wanted to be at, and I think whenever you have like that rambling conversation, that means it's a natural flowing one, and it's always the most fun. Foster, thanks for watching, dude. Love every time I see you, and if you're into fantasy football, Foster, please feel free to let us know, and I would love to have you on one of these times.
Well, we got people in the chat, man. I hope if you guys throwing in, who do I start? Week 1, I'm gonna give you guys advice a little bit later, but who do I start? Who do I bench? Me and David are happy to oblige with that.
Absolutely. Just to kind of comment further on a little bit. So I have my 2 leagues. I have my like big money league, and then I have my casual work league, which is a little bit more fun, a little bit more goofy, and coworkers are not necessarily the most fantasy football experts. And then my big money league, everyone's working pretty hard, keepers and all that stuff. A few funny notes, like kind of and so feel free to hop on these as well. I got Brock Purdy. I practiced what I preached on that. I got him in like the 10th round. Amazing, right? Just super solid starter. I grabbed Bijan with the 2nd overall pick.
How many teams in the league?
This one's 10.
Okay.
So I got Bijan, wanted him. I have DK in both leagues.
I love Metcalf this year.
Oh, me too, man. We were talking about that, about how I randomly love him this year, and I got him in both leagues, and I'm going to ride or die on that. I took Marvin Harrison Jr. in both leagues in about the fourth.
That's a fail safe.
Yeah, and then I'm rocking Kaimi Fairbairn as my kicker in both leagues because I got him for free, and I'm just like, the Texans are gonna, even if they don't punch it in, they're gonna have a field goal almost like every drive at this point. I feel like
I took kickers out of both of my leagues.
that's cool.
I just like it was. People thought they had some sort of formula behind how to dictate a good kicker, but it was besides just the guy who makes more field goals than misses. There is no science to it, man. People are like, oh, he's on this team, so he should be getting a lot of field. Like it never plays out that way to me. So to me, it felt like it was just luck of the draw, and every week a guy was good or every week a guy was. So I like, man, I'm just done with that. I don't want people thinking about that. So
also, every kicker can kick a 60-yarder at this point, almost. Yeah. I feel like in the league, so it's just a situation where you got lucky and your kicker kicked a 60-yarder, and now you won that week over a kicker. It's kind of funny sometimes, but it also pisses a lot of people off. One more thing, commentary wise, on my big money league, and this is the funny thing where football heads were kind of agreeing with us. I ignored Anthony Richardson 8th round. So I had the 12th pick in my big money league, and yeah, I ignored Anthony Richardson in the 8th round, 12th overall pick.
Well, yeah, and here's what's crazy, man. I did 2 drafts. I ran both leagues. One of them's a league I've been doing for 12 years. It's a pretty big money league as well. Very serious draft. 12 guys all know their football. The waiver, because I have a lot of roster spots too. I built a tremendous, I think I have 6 bench players, 2 IR, 2 flexes, 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and of course, so the free agency is just flat, man. I mean, nothing.
Yeah.
Like once you're picking your last after your defense,
I had 17 rounds in my big money. So
so you're getting thin. But you took Purdy in the 10-man league in the 10th. I took him in the 8th in the 12-man league. So pretty much the same, you know what I mean, in regards to how many quarterbacks are left based on the amount of players in the league. Pretty similar. And I did a 2-quarterback league was the other one, man. I just kind of did it for the fun of it. I think we're only putting like 10 or 20 bucks in, but it's a winner take all. But 8 guys, so the waivers are stacked. You know what I mean? They're still starting running backs in waivers or in the free agency. But I took Caleb Williams 22nd, so I think I got a draft grade like a D- because they're like,
nice.
Who the hell does that? But I was like, I'm having fun with this, man. I'm gonna take those risks I was talking about and see if this guy. I just want to have Caleb Williams on the team. See if this guy. Who knows, man? If he ends up being who I hope he is.
Agreed. And then last commentary, just for fun, because this is my keeper league. I took a big fly. I took a second to last round. I took Zach Charbonnet because as much as I do like Kenneth Walker, I feel like with Seattle, I even expected him to kind of explode last year, and he never did. And he was solid, but he just never exploded. So this year, I'm just kind of like, you know what? I could see some sort of weird, funky Seattle situation where I get to keep Zach Charbonnet second to last round. And I got Josh Palmer with Mr. Irrelevant pick. I thought that was pretty good.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm not a big his health concerns me, man, but a phenomenal pick with Mr. Irrelevant. I think I was the second to last pick or third to last pick in my big league, and I took – you're talking about like I think 18th round now or something like that. I took Roman Wilson.
Nice.
Because he's the slot receiver on the Steelers. I was like, I think Russ will be more comfortable throwing inside the numbers than out, but –
I heard a hilarious anecdote today that a year ago, George Pickens, and I'm not a huge George Pickens guy. I think he's really good. I'm just kind of like, I'm glad he's not on my team in terms of like team chemistry and like real football.
Yeah.
That it was against the Jets like a year or two ago. That George Pickens, usually players show up to game time like 4 hours before they start warming up, catching balls, jugs machine, this and that, running routes. Dude showed up with like candy 10 minutes before kickoff, full pads. It was just like, my bad, traffic.
Yeah, dude, I think I heard that. Yeah, I believe
it was a funny anecdote. Jersey Jerry from Barstool said that anecdote today. I love Jersey Jerry, but
yeah, I have Pickens in a league, but I took him really late. It's that league with 8 guys.
Yeah, let's see some comments. I love any comments because it just means somebody's interested enough to listen to us, and I love that. I appreciate that. SJMP, love to answer yours. If I was to package up Rachaad White and Devontae Adams, I'm guessing, in a trade package for someone, who should I aim for? I've been seeing that Adams is on a decline, so I'm not sure if I should trade him before it's late. Really, it matters. The thing that depends on whether or not you should trade him is when you got him for Devontae Adams, because I assume he was your 3rd round pick, probably. And Rachaad White sounds like a similar time you would draft, right? 3rd or 4th rounders. So if you're packaging 2 3rd rounders, you should probably be getting like a 2nd round draft talent, which would be a top, like, I would say like the 6th to 7th best running back, possibly like the 3rd or 4th best receiver. And then you'd better be breaking even if you're getting a top flight talent with that. So let's say you're getting, I'm just going to throw a name out there, like Saquon Barkley, right? You get Saquon for both of those. You're upgrading in your running back position, theoretically, ideally. But Devontae is like top tier as a receiver. You just assume that he's not going to get production because who's throwing him the ball. And I think the Raiders are going to suck this year as well. So all depends. And then looking at your current lineup, Purdy, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Rachaad White, Devontae Adams, Brandon Ayuk, Jake Moody. You could definitely use an upgrade at wide receiver. Keon Coleman is risky. Terry McLaurin should probably be starting over Devontae Adams just in terms of like target share anyway. Bucky Irving, Hollywood Brown, Dontavian Wicks, and Justice Hill. I almost like your bench receivers better than Devontae Adams. So if you're really trying to upgrade and you're sacrificing Rachaad White, get a crappier running back because you're deep there. And I guess I don't know about deep, but I would say you definitely need to, because Rachaad White's a really great 3rd running back. You better have a.
I was going to say, man, I love Rachaad White this year.
Me too. Tampa is just great. I don't know. Care to comment on that? Because I think you almost don't want to get rid of that 3rd running back. You're one injury away from needing him as your RB2.
Can I see his starting lineup again?
Yeah. Starting lineup here is gotcha. Is it showing up? Yeah. Lineup is Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Rachaad White, Devontae Adams, Brandon Ayuk, and Jake Moody. You could take Devontae Adams out of there and put in Terry McLaurin. I don't think you're losing much at all.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people are in this league, but you got a pretty good team. And I don't necessarily like Devontae Adams. The last 2 years, I would not have touched. This is the one year that if I had him on my team, I would feel a little better. I agree with David. I think the Raiders are a terrible football team, but I do think that Gardner Minshew, I mean, the guy slings the ball. Michael Pittman had 109 receptions last year after the injury to Anthony Richardson, and Richardson really didn't throw him too many passes. So, I mean, like, the receivers that have played with Minshew show a positive impact. Like, I think that Devontae Adams, if anyone on that passing game, Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams are the 2 guys that I wouldn't have hated drafting from that team this year. I mean, unless you feel desperate to get Devontae Adams off your team, obviously he's on the decline. He's in his latter years, but I like him more this year than I have in the last 3 seasons.
I agree completely. Honestly, at this point, I would say unless somebody's approaching you with like a deal that you can't say no to, I would ride this out for a week or 2 and see what happens. Hope for the best.
Absolutely. I agree with you, David. Those are not 2 players I'd be too worried about on my team.
Okay.
What's going on, Rich?
Looks like David's loading. Hey, Brandon.
Yeah,
how you doing?
Looks like we might have lost David for a minute there, so we'll let him get back in. But yeah, Richie, I just wanted to welcome you on the show. Thanks for joining tonight. And here we go. I think David is back, so here, let me bring him back.
What's up, David? We see you again.
I don't know if he's maybe possibly froze.
Yeah, okay, we'll give him a minute.
Sure.
To figure things out. How you doing, man? So yeah, these guys were discussing their drafts, and yeah, did you have a fantasy football draft you were in?
Oh, sorry, should be all right now. Sorry. So yeah, Richie. Yeah, to wrap up with SJMP, just I think overall, if you guys can hear me better,
yeah.
Unless somebody's breaking down your door to give you a Godfather offer, ride out 2 weeks and see what happens with your team because you have a super solid roster.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, sorry, David, I don't want to put you, I'm going to get to, because I'm going to forget it. I said I'm going to get to it later, but I'm going to say this, guys. Well, first off, before a season starts, I don't like seeking trades. If trades are
Same.
offered to me, I would obviously explore it, but I don't like seeking trades. You drafted those guys for a reason, probably not, but within the last week, and you're already kind of in your own head. So I say this to everybody. Be confident in who you drafted because there's a reason you did when you drafted them. Unless you see a dire position of need, like I don't have a tight end, you know what I mean? Like you took a tight end late. It's like fire move and you need a better starter. But another thing is, guys, don't bench players before week 1. I see a lot of guys draft their starting, they fill their starting slots. Then they draft a bench. And before week 1, I see them plugging in bench. It's like, don't draft the guys bench the guys you drafted in high rounds for somebody because you think you're smarter than the other. Like, oh, this defense is good against this. But just play the guys that you drafted high, man.
Yeah. One of the comments he added in there too was he has Kittle as a starting tight end. I don't know how many people are in your league, man, but like
you got a good team.
You really don't need to do much here, buddy. Like I think just looking at based on who you drafted where, probably you might have had one of my favorite drafts I've seen this year.
Yeah, Kittle's been going late this year.
Yeah.
And he's been going like tight end 5 this year, and then people think he has injury issues. And
he's got number 1 receivers on the bench. And I love when Hollywood Brown does play, because I think he's doubtful for this week. When he does play on that Chiefs team, he's going to be a very productive receiver as well.
Yeah, 12-man roster, 12-man, that's really good. Holy man.
Yeah. Look out for running back injuries because everybody has to all the time. It doesn't seem like you're super deep at running back. Yeah, so at this point, player wide receivers, let them go. I mean, you're starting Devontae Adams, Brandon Ayuk in week 1. You're probably pretty.
And if you want to trade Devontae, leave Rachaad White out of that trade and offer Devontae Adams for a running back, strictly a swap, and stick with McLaurin possibly in your starting lineup if you get a running back in return for Devontae Adams.
Yeah, McLaurin might end up having a better year anyway, so you're probably pretty well off here. Richie, we were just kind of shooting the breeze about what kind of interesting draft stories. Anybody who I don't know if you watched our last show. We were just kind of doing a I don't get it kind of scenario where we didn't really understand the Anthony Richardson hype, and we were kind of just sticking to our guns about that. Any interesting stories from your fantasy drafts this weekend?
I helped a buddy with an 8-man draft yesterday, and he ended up he was at number 7, and Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson were still on the board for him, and he ended up being able to get both. And then on the way back, I got him Travis Etienne. All right. Like, I was so over the moon for him, but it was only an 8-man draft. Like, the roster I just mentioned, this gentleman, SJMP, he's got Etienne and Rachaad White and Breece Hall. That's a good trio of running backs. Like they can carry your team any given week, Yeah,
I like that Buccaneers offense this year. It's a high volume offense. They're going to move the ball. So Rachaad White's a good, and he can catch too. I wouldn't move Rachaad White if I drafted him. I'd have drafted him to stay on my team.
Last year he was like the steal of the draft probably because you got him in like 9th round.
Kyron Williams and Rachaad White carried people's teams across the finish line last year. For sure.
Yeah. Ooh, this is a fun one. We get to comment on Teabag. Caleb, CMC, James Conner, Nico Collins, Rashee Rice, Chris Olave, McBride, Jordan Addison, Keon Coleman, Zach Moss, Josh Palmer, Zamir White, Jordan Mason.
Need a quarterback.
12-man. Need a
backup quarterback. Always have a backup.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I will say is it's a lot of upside roster kind of thing. I'd be worried about your week-to-week consistency. Your CMC is like your best consistent guy, and even then, the guy goes down for 3 weeks with a calf injury every year.
Between Connor and McCaffrey, you got some injury issues for sure there.
Yeah,
I like
Caleb's
Zamir White and Zach Moss though. Zach Moss a little less because I think Chase Brown has a monster year if he stays healthy.
Right, and then Jordan Addison is your stash away guy, I suppose. But even then, it's Sam Darnold throwing to him. Hopefully, he can find him. Keon Coleman might be my favorite risk factor here. I think Rashee Rice is highly underrated this offseason. I mean, the traffic accident situation he's in is definitely bad, but the NFL is not doing anything about it. The Chiefs aren't doing anything about it. He's just going to probably be playing.
He's going to ride it out. I love your tight end, T-Bag.
You love
And then-
teabags, tight end. I love it too.
I don't know if this is what he was going for, but Nico Collins, Rasheed Rice, Chris Olave, all of them can get better this year. All of them can turn in better stats this year than last year, and they turned in pretty good stats last year. So that's a young wide receiver. And Jordan Addison. They can all, like, you picked a lot of upside there. Like, this is kind of what I would expect for a 12-man.
Josh Palmer's a quality player if he's healthy.
Yeah, I'd almost like you have an embarrassment of mid riches to the point where I'd be so stressed starting this team right here if it was me. Because Caleb, CMC, James Conner, your auto starts. Nico Collins like is a week to week depending on who CJ Stroud's targets that week. Rashee Rice is your auto start. Chris Olave is just on the Saints. And
Trey McBride's a great tight end.
Trey McBride's great. And then Keon, I would almost be like tempted to start Keon Coleman every week and like Zamir and Zach Moss right now because of just what the Bengals are doing. And I think the Bengals are going to be a very interesting team to watch in the first like 3 to 4 weeks.
I don't know how well he plays. It's yet to be seen. Very small sample size, but I love Zamar White's usage this year.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the most. I think he's going to have one of the higher counts in carries for sure.
Yeah, I think both teams are going to be running the ball a lot. I think Cincinnati's trying to pretend that Joe Burrow's okay, but I think they're going to be running the ball a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, but overall, I think where we wanted to go with the show, and I don't know how prepared you are, Brandon, with your top fives and stuff, but we had our top 5 sit-ems, stardoms, and stuff like that. I didn't get anything specific when we chatted about positions or anything like that. I broke mine down by position kind of because it's like quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end a little bit. But yeah, I think we can start with kind of our stardom sit-ems. We can comment on each other's as well if you have anything to throw in before we go. And yeah, I think we can get going on that. How do you feel?
Yeah, definitely. Man.
Sounds good. So I'm going to start with mine. My auto stardom, and I don't have them, but I'm watching. I think I'm either played against them. So auto picked 4 QBs. Yeah, that's going to be that's going to be slim. It's going to be like such easy shooting fish in a barrel for you, T-Bag. So that's going to be good for you. He's going to drop 1. You're going to be the benefactor of getting a free quarterback for sure. So I have as my auto start, love the matchup, love the team, love the situation. I think if you have Jared Goff in any leagues, start him this week. He's playing, if I'm not mistaken, the LA Rams. I think the LA Rams are going to be the worst, if not one of the 5 worst defenses in all of football this year. It's a Sunday nighter, big game. The Lions lately have been performing really well on primetime games. Jared Goff right now, I think generally speaking, is probably the most consistent part of that team in terms of offense. So I just see Jared Goff. He doesn't strike me as the type. And in terms of their offense, the fact that Ben Johnson stuck around, they are one of the few teams in the NFL this year that I'm kind of leaning towards. I don't think they're going to be off to a hot start. Every team gets a messy start right after training camp and they get off to slower starts. But in terms of the Lions, I don't see much change on that team. I don't see much miscommunication or any reason they should have a slow start. I would easily expect Jared Goff to go off for like 250 plus, 2 touchdowns, if not 3. Probably have 1 pick at worst. So I would say your easy auto start for quarterback. Considering all the crazy matchups this week, I would say Jared Goff. How do you guys think?
Yeah, I like Goff as well for sure. I think you're absolutely right. That the Rams got better in the draft with Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, but that doesn't help the secondary that wasn't very good last year. They didn't do too much to change that. I'm going to take the easy one, guys. Like auto start for quarterback is Joe Burrow this week. He's back. Seems like his health is good. He's playing that Patriots team that I think might be one of the worst teams in the NFL on both sides of the football. I have them as the worst record in the NFL when the season's done. And it's going to start early. And it's going to be a great game for Joe Burrow to kind of find his feet again. I would say probably at least 2 passing touchdowns, probably close to 300 yards.
Interesting. I would say the only thing on that one, and just this is my skepticism on Joe Burrow this year. I just don't like Joe Burrow's situation. And then the secondary in New England is probably the only good part of their defense left at this point.
Yeah, but didn't they lose somebody in the offseason? I thought they lost a quality player that
I think they got rid of Jack Johnson or one of those guys to the Chargers, but he was one of those guys who was kind of causing trouble on the team, and then they got rid of him, and then kind of brought him back. But they brought back Christian Gonzalez, who was like a top 5 corner through 5 weeks.
So that'll be fun. They drafted him 15th overall last year.
That'll be fun.
Player.
I still agree with you. I think Joe Burrow will have a good game. My hesitation in the only way, shape, and form is, and this is all speculative and just my feelings towards Cincinnati. I've never liked Cincinnati too much. They always get off to slower starts and then kind of end up a 9 or 10 win team and then sneak into the playoffs. And then they play really well in the playoffs when it matters. And then I think they're going to run the shit out of the ball the first few weeks until they can figure out what Joe Burrow's wrist is and how much he can like handle like the typical 30 to the 4. Because Joe Burrow in any other year is like one of the few quarterbacks, I would say, like 40 to 45 throws every game, right? Like he's one of those high volume, high number guys.
The run game has definitely improved, I think, between Chase Brown and Zach Moss. They got a little, I don't know. I wouldn't say, well, younger with Chase Brown, but a little more speed as well. Joe Mixon was good, but he didn't run the ball very well. He was a great player on the backfield, like Ekeler has been his whole career, but you don't think of those guys as pure running backs.
No, I think Joe Mixon. I think the peak of Joe Mixon's career is definitely on the downhill.
Yeah, absolutely. After
he's on the older side.
Some trouble last year that didn't make it any better either.
Right. So yeah, Richie, any comments on either of our starts? Any thoughts?
I like the Joe Burrow pick. I was just gonna comment with my own. If that's cool. So I would say CJ Stroud, Indianapolis. It's not like they have a super stellar defense, and I think that's an easy pick if we're allowing people to go with the easy picks here, just because.
No, that was my second pick as well. So yeah.
Gotcha. Mine as well. CJ, I almost said Stroud just because that Colts secondary I think finished 31st in the league last year.
They didn't really. DeVorest Buckner's like 31. Grover Stewart is one of the biggest overpays in the offseason. They have no defensive ends to speak of, and then the secondary I can't name you. I think their best cornerback is their nickel, and it's Kyrie something. He's the best guy on the team. So I agree. CJ Stroud was definitely my second place choice on that list before I figured out. I was like, you know what, Jared Goff, Ben Johnson, they're not going to skip a beat. Detroit's probably the most stable early season team in the NFL right now. I just don't like their fantasy options because there's just too many mouths to feed, and I just wouldn't feel good about unless I get to just take the points from Detroit for scoring. I have no idea who's going to be the big player of the week other than Jared Goff because he's going to feed all those guys.
I like Amon-Ra. I think Laporta is going to have a few more down weeks than people where he's being drafted, especially in fantasy. I saw people taking him over Kelsey.
Same.
I'm not there yet. Like you said, man, they spread the ball. They did lose Reynolds, but I think this is the year you're going to see Jahmyr Gibbs really involved in the passing game in Detroit. So there's going to be a lot of targets in the backfield. And Montgomery can catch the ball. Doesn't do much with it after, but he can catch the ball.
Agreed. I just want to do one more comment before we go to our stinkers. We got Kamara, Connor, Ramondre, Javonte, Chase Brown, and Warren. How the hell did you get all these running backs? I would settle for 2 of them. It's great. 10-team PPR. How bad is it? Dude, you're in a great spot. You have depth and you have
receivers. You're loaded with receivers.
Kamara is really good for PPR.
Kamara, Connor, and Chase Brown can all catch, and Warren can catch the ball.
And I personally think that just based on how Bo Nix plays football, I think you're going to see so much running the shit out of the ball. And then Bo Nix is going to be just like a one-read check down quarterback all year. Like Javonte is probably going to have like 4 to 6 catches a game.
Yeah, he got a cold piece, stays healthy. He suffered a pretty rough injury.
Jalen Warren's a great stash till the end of the year because I like Najee Harris. I don't hate him for any reason in particular, but I just think he's going to get benched by week 6 and TJ Warren's just going to play over him.
I do think Chase Brown, guys, is an immediate impact player. I think he's kind of a Devon A-Chain, same role. Very small player. You have to worry about his health, but he's a Swiss Army knife. Give the guy the ball in whatever fashion you can and just give him some open field.
Yeah, man, depending on what your flex positions are, because in my big league, I have 2 flexes, and I'm starting 4 receivers this week just because I'm so thin at running back. Dude, if you have 2 flexes on your running back, you better be starting 4 running backs. These are all great choices. Kamara's great. I'd start Connor. I'd probably start Javonte, and then, I don't know, Chase Brown.
Flex and Chase Brown.
Yeah.
It's a guy I wanted in every draft. He went higher than I expected. I didn't get him. I watched him his whole career at Illinois. I think
Until
he
you,
had 16
yeah,
touchdowns.
until you figure out what the Patriots are, Ramondre might be a bench. But other than that, dude, you're all set for the year.
Yeah, I see a lot of defenses loading the box. It's going to be an uphill battle for that guy for sure.
Agreed. I can start with my avoid them, and it's not so much. I'm very aware. I'm also big into gambling. I don't know about you guys, how much you guys log into your FanDuel and everything like that.
Yeah.
Week 1 of the NFL, slam every under. Anything near 45 to 50 point totals, slam unders. It's just sloppy football. It's just people forget. They get excited about the beginning of the season. They think that the Chiefs and the Ravens is going to be like 35 to 28. That happens occasionally, but very rarely. And then you're going to see 15 to 18 point slugfests and rock fights. So slam unders. And the main thing I would say with my bench them or avoid them, I'm usually going to throw in some shit talk here and there and just some NFC hatred. Do not start Jordan Love this week. Bench Jordan Love. I can easily say Jalen Hurts just as quickly, but avoid that Friday night in Brazil game. I think there's too much weird stuff going on, period, with that Brazil game. The vibes are just wrong about it, generally speaking, in terms of all the stories you hear about the players not allowing to bring their families and how they're just supposed to stay in their hotel rooms. They're not allowed to wear green. You can't even check the score on Twitter because Brazil just banned Twitter. So you're going to have to watch that game live if you want to know what the hell's going on. You can't see highlights from Brazil. So I think it's going to be a slow start. I think all the players are going to be like just oddly jet lagged, oddly tired, things like that nature. Also, I think me personally, yes, the last 9 games of the Packers season were a nice positive. But I don't understand the Jordan Love crowning yet. I would just as easily, I don't personally find it shocking to hear Jordan Love lost to the Eagles with 175 total yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. That wouldn't shock me in any way, shape, or form. Whereas if Jalen Hurts didn't at least go for 150 throwing, a touchdown, and then a rushing touchdown, I think that's the much more consistent choice of those two. But everything in that Brazil game is just stay away. If you can start a better option somewhere at home against a bad defense, this is 2 teams that are both pretty damn good, pretty NFC favorites. It's going to be a rock fight, and I don't think anybody's going to be a winner here.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I would have said, I mean, that game is ugly. I love the 2 players that Philly drafted in their secondary, but they're still very young. Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, great players, young. I don't know if they don't get beat a little early in the season, but I agree with you in the game being in Brazil on Friday. As far as I heard on the radio this morning too, guys, none of these players like being in Brazil. They don't want to leave their hotel. There's a lot of crime going on there, so they're not thrilled to be there is what I've been told. I would tell you guys to sit Daniel Jones, but he's probably not on your fantasy team. I hope to God he's not. A guy that we all see drafted a little higher than I think he should be. But like me and David said, we both watch him just fall in our drafts. Anthony Richardson. You draft Anthony Richardson, but you got a quality backup. He's playing a Texans defense that has Will Anderson and now
Daniel Hunter
on the other side. He's going to get pressure no matter who the offensive line is that the Texans are facing. They're going to be a handful. I don't like Richardson throwing the ball a lot. I do see him having a decent rushing game, maybe even over 100 yards, possibly a touchdown. But I'm going to guess that he probably turns the ball over at least twice, maybe a fumble and an interception. He's going to be pressured. The Colts offensive line, interior offensive line is phenomenal. I have questions with their tackles. So, yeah, Anthony Richardson's the guy. I don't love starting. You probably feel, though, that you're in a must-start position because you drafted him high. But me and David weren't real high on him to begin with. If you have a quality backup, that's the guy.
I'm with you, man. I think Texans are a top 5 defense this year. They're probably one of my favorite defense. I think they're top 3, honestly.
Yeah, I drafted them in fantasy.
Yeah, dude, the preseason, their secondary was so physical and so scrappy. And then I think D'Amico Ryans can coach up any mid-level linebacker to probably be like an upper-level borderline Pro Bowler. So even though they didn't upgrade dramatically at linebacker, I still think like they're probably going to be pretty good there. And then the defensive line at this point is going to take care of itself because of those 2 guys like that you just mentioned. So I'm with you.
Yeah, I agree. The hell of a defensive coach. That's what I was going to say, Daniel Jones, because Brian Flores is going to eat Daniel Jones up. But I hope nobody out there drafted Daniel Jones on the fantasy.
The way I approached it, Brandon, was I looked at the 12 to 15 best quarterbacks in the league because in my head I figured that's who you're going to be drafting anyway or debating on starting, and then tried to avoid a must start kind of guy. So even though I like obviously Jordan Love is probably the 5th or 6th best fantasy quarterback, maybe like 7th or 8th, whatever people slot him at. I was just in my head I just would not be surprised by 175, a pick and a touchdown and 2 picks from Jordan Love against the Eagles, and they match up really well. The secondary, like you just said, had some new extra pieces. Like the whole point of the Packers is that they just throw so much depth at you that you just can't keep up. And right now the Eagles have so much depth at corner and safety that they reloaded on that I just think it's like almost that even slugfest rock fight. And I almost picture this Brazil game like you guys remember that rainy Miami Pittsburgh game where the ball just like slopped into the ground and all the players were just like trying to go home. I think that's what you're going to see. It's just like low effort. All the players just want to get this game over with and go home, regardless whether they win or not. These are veteran teams that know that the season's not won in game one. It'd be nice to win, but I think they're both just kind of like the veterans, especially, are just going to be like, let me get the fuck out of here. So, Richie, any comments or any additional throw-ins you got in there? Avoid-ems?
My avoid-em would have just been Dak Prescott. He's against a Cleveland defense that still has Darius Smith and Myles Garrett and a good secondary. And he started off last season really slow too. The Cowboys offense didn't really get cooking until week 7. And Mike McCarthy's offense, it's like he gets a new team and then he's good for a number of years, and it only gets worse. They figure out his plan. So I don't think Dak Prescott is a stardom this week. So yeah, that's just me.
I'm with you. The only thing I would say is, as of right now, you got Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott. So if that team's down early, Dak Prescott's probably going to drop back 40 to 50 times. So even though it might like not look like a good game and they might get their asses kicked physically, even if it's not on the scoreboard, I think just target share, I think you're going to see Dak Prescott sling it. I don't even know who the hell their second receiver is at this point. So I'm with you in terms of the talent and not really looking positive for Dak Prescott, but more so than anything.
I think they have CeeDee Lamb at 2 touchdowns. So
really,
I believe so in player parlays right now. I think it's like
Brandon Cooks. That's the other receiver right now down there.
And he's pretty good, but he's just kind of like he disappears and then reappears
he's worse
every
than
once in a while.
From the preseason. He missed like a week of practice in the preseason. Something happened.
I always find this thought experiment very interesting and funny, but like there's always players in the NBA and the NFL that you just feel like have been around for decades. And like if I ask you guys, just throw out your best guess, like how old Brandon Cooks is.
Well, I was looking him up for fantasy football research, so I know he was drafted in 2013.
Brandon, any idea?
13. So he's
dude. I think he's like 27 years old.
Oh, really?
No, I'm pretty sure he's like 27 years old or something. Something ridiculous. Brandon Cooks feels like he's just been around forever. I want to say something ridiculous like that. It's like 28 or 27, maybe.
He's 30.
Is he 30? Thank God. Okay.
Yeah. 2013, he's got to be at least like 29, right?
I was going to say, because I feel like Brandon Cooks has been just in my life forever.
For a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, he's a good receiver. I don't know what's happening with him. He gets traded around a lot. So
yeah.
He has trouble staying healthy. It's one thing. He's always kind of, he'll get a big play downfield, and he kind of lands on the wrong shoulder in a weird way. It seems like he does that consistently.
They also have Jalen Tolbert. He's a young talent to see if he grows. So, yeah.
All right, Brandon, I started last on. You got any pluses that you were thinking about in terms of running back or any other players you got on your mind that you're, stardom's looking good matchup wise?
Yeah, hold on one second. It was actually I thought we were going to running backs first, so that's the first place I went.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah. Our Bears, guys. I like DeAndre Swift against the Titans a lot in this game, guys. I think probably rely pretty heavily on him in pass and run. Like you just said, David, check down's a safe play for a young quarterback. It's going to be a go-to play for the Bears, at least early in the season. I see DeAndre Swift possibly rushing and receiving a touchdown. The only way I don't see that happen is if Khalil Herbert's the running back and rushes the touchdown.
I'm with you. I've been on the DeAndre Swift bandwagon a pretty long time at this point this offseason. I feel like he's a 15 touch just out of the backfield guy minimum per game. I think you don't pay a guy that much and not give him at least 15 carries a game. I don't think he's going to be like the bell cow back in terms of like 22 to 23, but nobody is in this league anymore. So I think he is going to be that 14 to 15 carry guy. And then I see at least 6 catches. Just off of that statistics, you're probably going to see 1 touchdown out of all that. So if you're getting 22 touches a game out of your running back 2 and a touchdown, man, like I'm almost, just tempted for pride's sake, just put him in at like running back 1.
Yeah, especially against defenses that don't impress.
Same. If I can start mine, my auto start. This is going to be a little bit like I'm trying to go a little deeper here because I think some of them I'm trying to be with guys that you're debating on the fence, right? So Alvin Kamara with this New Orleans Saints defense, with this New Orleans Saints offense, the only consistent point of it at this point is Alvin Kamara. He was banged up last year. I think he's healthier this year. I don't see a lot of tread on his tires left, generally speaking, over his career, but we're not really worried about that. We're worried about week 1. He's facing the Carolina Panthers. I don't really know
who traded their best defensive player.
Yeah, who you're scared of. I mean, the Saints have never been a up the middle, ground and pound type of team anyway. So if the only guy you're scared of is Derek Brown up the middle, or even him like sliding out to the outside, guess what the Saints are going to do? They're going to run the opposite way. They're going to do outside zones. They're going to do some play action stuff where they get him involved in screens, play action. I just think that Alvin Kamara is kind of in the same light of what we just talked about with DeAndre Swift. He's going to be 15 to 20 carries. He's going to have 6 to 7 catches, get him involved early and often. You're probably going to see at least 1 touchdown. I don't even know. I think the Saints are really bad, and I don't even know if they're going to win this game. But I could easily see them being down early or up early. And both ways, it actually helps Kamara because if you need to catch up, you're going to give him the ball in terms of like screen game, get him involved. He's your best offensive player, him or Chris Olave. And then if you're up early, they're just going to pound the rock and just beat the shit out of Carolina. And if they're just that much better than them, they're just going to pound the rock and just run the clock and just go out with a win against Carolina.
Yeah, I like Kamara this year entirely for sure.
I don't like Kamara all year. That's why I wouldn't have drafted him super early. I don't see him lasting the season. I think he's getting older and stuff like that. But week 1 against this team, I think he's like one of my favorite 3 starts.
Yeah, I drafted him in like every league because he was going in like the 3rd or 4th round, and he might perform like a number 1. And a lot of my leagues are half-point PPR, which it's still worth it to draft him, or PPR, which it's totally worth it to draft him because he catches a lot out of the backfield. Also, Kendre Miller, his backup, is injured. He's starting the season injured. So even more to your point, David, week 1, definite stardom.
Yep. Richie, any comments? Well, thanks for the comments on those 2, but anything you got to toss in there? Any random stardoms?
I think Aaron Jones is a consummate professional from his time being in our division, and he's against the Giants, and they're still the Giants. He's Minnesota's starter. I can see him getting, just at least 5 catches and 40 yards just off of catches. And however much they run the ball with him, it'll be interesting, but he's still firmly entrenched as their starter. So I think it's the last Aaron Jones season. He's getting older, but I think he's due for a good game here, at least.
I'm with you there. And then kind of the same instability that we're talking about from both of our picks is that instability at quarterback. I don't think you want Sam Darnold throwing any more than 25 times that game. If he's throwing more than 25 times this game, it's probably because you're in trouble and you're losing to the Giants at that point, for God's sake. So yeah, Aaron Jones, you start him until he gets hurt. I agree with you there, just because really the situation more than anything, the Vikings are just a dumpster fire. I don't know who their backup quarterback is at this point from after JJ McCarthy. I don't know where I heard this misinformation. I thought Jordan Addison was out for the year with like a meniscus or something at some point, but
it looked like it.
Okay.
It looked really dire. He had an ankle injury in practice.
Off, I think, yeah.
Got it. Okay. So that's what that is. Richie, if you got any avoidums this week, or even maybe avoidums is a strong word because I have a few in my mind that are kind of like honorable mention avoidums, but you can't not start them. But just maybe more of like a be careful, or if you have a better second or third choice, you might want to do it. You have any ideas?
Man, I can never say to not sit Josh Jacobs, but he's against Philly's defense. I don't know how he's going to look on the Packers, and it's Philly's defense. They've stuffed everyone up the middle like all last season. So I'm wary about Josh Jacobs. I would say expect like run RB3 production from Josh Jacobs or RB2 production from Josh Jacobs, not like RB1 if you're leaning on him to be your RB1.
I think that's a good call, mainly just because it's Jordan Davis and another year of Jalen Carter getting healthier and better acclimated in terms of stamina towards the Eagles. And like you said, it's the road game. We don't know what the hell we're going to see. And we just talked about how that game's probably going to be a rock fight in general. I don't really know who their pass rush is this year, if you guys know off the top of your head for Philly, but after losing like Hassan Reddick, who's their best, I think that
is going to be probably an impact player this year.
Yeah, so that's with them. I got one that I'm not going to say because you have to start him because of how much I like him.
I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah, but I think be wary and don't be shocked if maybe Bijan Robinson doesn't do super, super well against Pittsburgh. I obviously would start him. I do have him in one league. I wish I had him in every league. I love Bijan Robinson this year. I would just say don't be shocked if he doesn't have a crazy game against Pittsburgh. They match up really well. Like Patrick Queen's a good coverage linebacker when he goes into route running mode. Their defensive line, Cam Hayward, is still like super solid, and they're going to have good run defense. And it's a Pittsburgh Mike Tomlin coach team. They're going to do well against the run in general, but just don't be shocked. My actual avoid him or even like careful. I've never been super high on him this year anyway. Kyren Williams against Detroit. Kyren Williams is being drafted like RB1 this year. In most leagues, I would have said he's at best RB2. I think this Rams team is just in general a glass cannon paper tiger. They're one injury away from really the whole thing falling apart, and they're missing their left tackle to start the season. So Kyren Williams against Detroit with what you have on that defensive line with, sorry, I'm going to get Brandon back in here. With, I think, Aiden Hutchinson, I think this is probably going to be his like bust through year. Their defensive line is kind of deep and stacked. And I think, like I said, the same reasons that Detroit's probably going to have a really good offensive pickup. The secondary was Detroit's biggest weakness last year. It was never run defense. It was never coverage. They're deep at linebacker. They're deep at defensive line. And I don't think LA, if they are going to do well against Detroit, it's not going to be on the ground. It's going to be through the air. And Matt Stafford, week 1, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. And I just don't see Kyren Williams being the reason that that team does well against Detroit. Kyren Williams, I would not be surprised if his like 13 carries for 50 yards all game and maybe like 2 catches. I wouldn't be shocked by that stat line at all. And he's going to be most people's RB1. Just heads up on Kyren Williams. I don't really get it.
I got a question for you. How much of this is you being high on Detroit's defense?
Not as much as I just don't think that the Rams are as formidable. It's weird because I know it's like one of those things with Sean McVay that they're just always going to be well coached and do well. I just think it's a beginning of the season thing. LA's best case scenario right now is just Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua carrying the weight and Matthew Stafford staying healthy. I don't really see. I understand how Kyren Williams was the load share kind of guy as of last year. Young legs, all that stuff, but I never really. I don't know. I think it's a good matchup as well. I do think Detroit's defense is good, and it's for the reasons that it would stop Kyren Williams and what they'd be keyed into to try to, in terms of game planning, right? Like if you're Detroit, your game plan is stop the run early, force Matthew Stafford to throw it on late downs, beat the crap out of him because he's older, and then use your fancy new cornerbacks and your fancy new toys in the secondary to kind of just like stop on third down. It's just kind of the model Detroit's been doing for 2 years. And that's why they match up with teams that you would think traditionally they don't match up really well with. They beat Kansas City last year. Maybe it was a fluke. Maybe it wasn't. They matched up really well against San Fran, but they just lost it in the last second, and it's like a team with two good receivers that do a lot of these tricky things. It's the things that you would expect Detroit not to give up. Well, they do. So I just don't think Kyron Williams is going to have a good game against Detroit personally.
I like Kyron Williams a lot this year. I like him as a running back too. But yeah, this game's going to probably be a rough road. I think signing DJ Reader made the Lions a much better team against the run, for sure. The running back that I would avoid, and I know I forget who that was who posted his lineup. I know I said that I love the player over the course of the season. I would probably, if you got better options, put Rachaad White on the bench this week. The first thing that Dan Quinn does when he becomes a head coach of a football team is solidifies his run defense. So I liked the hire Washington made with Dan Quinn. I think the defense is going to perform better than the offense, even though I do like Jaden Daniels. So Rachaad White, the Buccaneers against Commanders, that's the guy I don't love this week. But like I said, I do like the player overall.
I like that matchup as well. I don't really have much to comment on that one just because, yeah, like you said, if that matchup goes well, then, Rachaad White might not be the most involved in that game. So,
yeah, I think, I do think that they're going to exploit if the Bucs are. I do think the Bucs offense is quality, man. I think they're going to exploit the same defense we watched Justin Fields torch last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the Buccaneers beat the Commanders is in the passing game.
I like it. Richie, do you want to start us off with any likes on receiver for this week? I don't know if you started last one, but yeah, if you got any off the top of your head, or if you need to do a little bit of research real quick, but I'm ready to go. And Brandon, if you're ready, you feel free to jump in as well if you have anything.
I had to sit him for receiver ready, but for likes at receiver, I don't have anyone right now.
Gotcha. I'm gonna rock Brandon. I think you know exactly who I'm about to say. You know exactly. DK Metcalf is playing Denver. And generally speaking, yeah, you're going to be matched up against Patrick Surtain. But unless Denver is doing something where they're going to have Patrick Surtain following DK Metcalf, which I find to be hard to believe just because of how Seattle's hard to believe because the physicality matchup, I know Patrick Surtain's like top 2 corners in the league. But with the way that Seattle offense is structured, more so based on last year, so I can't speak to their new offensive coordinator, but so much motion, so much movement. Unless you're shadowing Patrick Surtain over DK Metcalf all game, you're going to leave openings and you're going to have to put Patrick Surtain into a situation where potentially like he's going to be leaving somebody open just by following DK Metcalf. The other negative to that is I don't think it's a good game plan to try to shut down. If you're Denver and you're already thin everywhere else, I don't think it's a good game plan to lock down DK Metcalf and let Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith-Njigba just go absolutely insane. I don't think that's the right game plan. Put Patrick Surtain somewhere where he can be productive and helpful, play zone, play smart, have him like be rangy this year because you just lost like all your rangy defenders. Justin Simmons is not on the team anymore. I guess that's the only free safety that I can think of in terms of helping him out and over the top and stuff like that. I guess my only caveat to that is if you turn on the game and they say, well, we talked to the coach, we talked to Sean Payton, Patrick Surtain's just shadowing DK all game. I apologize, but overall, DK should be starting on your team every week anyway. But yeah, I think DK Metcalf over Denver is going to be probably 8 catches, 100 yards.
Yeah, I like DK. I like DK all year, man. I do. I think Tyler Lockett is really close to the bottom of being an impactful player in football, more so than in fantasy. He's lost some speed. He used to be able to play a little bit outside. Now he's strictly slot. Smith-Njigba is going to play the outside there. I think DK is going to get a lot of targets this year for sure. So I agree with you there, David. The guy that I like probably the most this week, honestly, and he's not going to be anyone's wide receiver 1, or at least I hope not, is Jalen Waddle. They're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't love their secondary. They didn't really improve. They actually lost a player in Jenkins that I liked a lot. And I think their edge rush is good enough to get to Tua. I don't love the Dolphins' offensive line, but it's going to take time. Josh Allen can get there. I don't see Tyreek Hill having the time to develop, the downfield plays. And I think Jalen Waddle, Tua, when he's in trouble, he starts to get rid of the ball quickly. That's the one thing he does do really well in the NFL is he makes his reads quick and he gets rid of the ball quickly. And Mike McDonald draws up an offense where Tua doesn't have to hold the ball too long. I like Jalen Waddle getting between, honestly, 8 to 11 catches in this game. High usage in this game.
I love that, mainly because Tyreek's still nursing an injury as well. So if he's not at full speed and breaking the defense open off the top, like you said, I think Tua tends to look to Jalen more as a safety blanket than to Tyreek.
Possession guy. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Kind of avoid him, and this is going to be a lot of factors here, so don't hate me. I don't know how comfortable I
I think we've cut out for a second. I didn't hear your player.
Oh, sorry. I hope I'm still functionally. I think anytime one of us leaves the room or re-enters, last time Richie entered, I think I had a little bit of connection issue, so I'm going to give it a second to kind of catch up.
You're sounding good right now.
Okay, cool. I would be careful with DJ Moore this week. Going to be matched up on L'Jarius Sneed, and then I was looking through the Tennessee Titans depth chart today. I forget off the top of my head who their second cornerback is, but it's also no slouch. I forgot. Fun fact: Earl Thomas, backup safety on the Tennessee Titans. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Wow.
That's where we're at with Earl Thomas's point of his career. I was looking through their depth chart. Unfortunate for him, but careful with just DJ Moore. Yes, Keenan Allen is still a little bit soft on the foot injury, but with a few factors. Rookie first overall picks are 12 Chidobe Awuzie. Thank you, Paulie. Chidobe Awuzie is not terrible. He was the first corner, I believe, on Cincinnati last year. He went to Tennessee to be the first corner over there before they ended up trading for L'Jarius Sneed. So now he ended up slotting into that second corner spot. So either side that DJ Moore is going to match up on, he torches really, really good corners regardless. It's not really like a thing that DJ Moore ever gets overwhelmed by a top 10 corner or anything like that. But with the fact that first overall pick, quarterbacks are like 0-12 or 0-12 in their first games as a player. I think with Tennessee having a slightly underrated defense, the fact that Caleb, we don't know what he looks like yet and who he's going to look to. Is he more of a tight end as a safety blanket guy, slot receiver as a safety blanket guy? Is he going to be a check down Charlie early on? It's the first game of the season. We don't really know what to expect. I expect more like running the ball than anything. I don't expect a lot of deep balls or anything like that unless they just are going to take us by surprise. And I think that'd be a pleasant surprise. But at this point, I would say like with Keenan and Rome, like I think any one of them are equal in terms of feeling to start them. If I was starting Rome this week, I'd feel just as confident of him having like six catches for 75 yards and a touchdown as I would DJ having 6 catches, 75 yards and a touchdown. So just be wary that if you have if he's your wide receiver 3 or he's your solid wide receiver 2, but you got like a wide receiver 3 backup and you might want to just start 2 receivers that week. I don't know if DJ is like your guaranteed locked in starter this week. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump to the other side. And I know a lot of people probably drafted DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to miss some games, it looks like. I would not. I know you're thinking number one, opportunity targets. Do not start Calvin Ridley on your fantasy team this week. I do think the Bears struggle in pass rush this year, but I think that secondary is locked down. Whether or not you're playing Jalen Johnson or Tyreek Stevenson, Calvin Ridley caught 76 of 138 passes last year. 76 of 138 targets. It's like a 55% catch rate. He doesn't really catch the ball all that well. People see him, rank him high. People love him. I don't get it. He's getting overpaid everywhere he goes. Do not play him against Jalen Johnson. That's who he's probably going to be facing. So,
any of the Bears cornerbacks, I think they can lock them up. So,
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's nice thinking about how there's going to be Bears football in less than a week. It's amazing, you know? But for my sit-em, I was going to say Rashee Rice. When you look at the Chiefs wide receiver core, they're really leaning on Rashee Rice to be like a number one receiver, to perform better than he did last year. And he's against Baltimore this week. And also Marquise Brown, his help. He hasn't practiced this week, and they're playing on Thursday, I believe, right? So Rashee Rice, I don't see him doing much against Baltimore this week, unfortunately. I think it's going to be tough sledding for him, and Kansas City's going to have to pull something out with their tight ends or their wide receiver depth.
Yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes has turned into that quarterback where I feel like I can picture the graphic watching a game with Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes has completed 11 completions to 11 different receivers first 11 throws, and you wouldn't be surprised. So there's no really point in investing in any one player week one, or especially if there's no guaranteed lockdown starter on that team.
No, I agree with you. Spread the ball
Yeah.
well. I do like their improvements on the receiving core. I think Rice takes a step forward from last year. I think Hollywood Brown, when he's healthy, is a quality player, between the number 2 and the number 3 twinge. And then I really like Xavier Worthy once he gets his, he's got his feet underneath, and once he gets the playbook down, once he gets his head wrapped around the speed of the NFL, which won't take him long.
Plus, Kelsey's going to be helping them all out, So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the guy you got to worry about, who always seems to be left wide open. No disrespect to Kelsey.
I kind of miss my stardom. I have someone, Mike Evans. Yeah,
that was my number 2. Great call.
Yeah, because so he's going against Washington. I know you said Washington, Dan Quinn's going to fix their run defense, but I don't see a cornerback on the roster that can reliably cover Mike Evans, and I think he's going to feast on.
Rough. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike Evans season this week at least. So yeah.
I'm with you as well, just because I think in terms of ball control and stuff, I could easily see Washington just turning the ball over a lot, having a lot of 3 and outs, giving Tampa a lot of reliable drives to just get the ball to Mike Evans, because we don't know what Jaden Daniels is yet, or frankly Austin Eckler, what he can still do, and I wouldn't be as surprised by
on offensive field a lot.
Yeah, it's just one of those things of touches, like time of possession. I could see Tampa Bay having like 40-20 just because it's Washington. They have no idea what the hell they're doing yet. It's Cliff Kingsbury air raid offense. It's the whole point of the offense is either we get a great, amazing, huge play downfield, or we just walk off the field, let the defense play. And so, that's literally like intentional based on how he runs his offense. So I'm with you there as well. Ball control, like 38 minutes to 22 minutes of ball control wouldn't shock me. And, the more time your team has the ball, the better fantasy results you have. So, yep. We could do some tight end stuff. I mean, tight ends are just such a crapshoot at this point that I don't really know. I mean, if you guys have anything to say about any tight end, positive or negative, go for it. I might have one comment, but for me, it's just I have them, so I want to start them. Evan Ingram against Miami.
That's what I was going to say.
Was it? Yeah, Evan Ingram against Miami. The linebacker core against Miami is not that deep, not that strong. Evan Ingram is a matchup nightmare, period, in total anyway. Miami, the secondary is pretty okay when Jalen Ramsey's healthy. Otherwise, the depth isn't really there. And when you're down to your 4th corner matching up with Evan Ingram, or your first or second linebacker matching up with Evan Ingram, you're going to have a bad time. And so, I think Evan Ingram's a target machine this year in general. You're going to be in the heat. 2 Florida teams, just check downs to the tight end and hope for the best. That's my guy. Brandon, sounds like you had Evan Ingram too. Anything backup wise, or Richie?
Yeah, I think I was going to say Ingram, but a guy that I like this week too, because Rich already mentioned, just a monster defense that's going to get after the quarterback, and they play well in the secondary as well. I like Ferguson on Dallas. I think he's going to be a safety blanket for Dak this week. Dak's going to pass in the flat a whole lot. I don't love their check down options at all. I don't like Zeke or Rico Dowdle being like a big impact player in the passing game for Dallas this year. So I think their safety net is Ferguson. That's where I think he'll go early and often.
That was going to be mine as well. I had that as like my first, just kind of like deep cut. Richie, before I give my third deep cut, you got anything you want to add there with tight ends?
Well, I was looking around and I didn't know Cole Kmet is not expected to play this Thursday. That sucks.
I did not know that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have Cole Kmet, hope you drafted another tight end as a backup. So,
Do we know why? That's news, or is that breaking news?
Let me find that
Yeah,
here.
that's news to me, man. Usually get people texting me all day when something happens.
Yeah, and that would suck because I've been big on the get Cole Kmet the damn ball and keep it away from Gerald Everett.
His profile has a healthy tag in both leagues that I'm
in. I don't know why it says here that it says he's not expected to play Thursday. Let me look into that a little bit more. But for my stardom, I was going to say Kyle Pitts just because it's about freaking time. I think he's ready to I think he's been just looking at the face of frustration the last couple of years. I think he wants to blow the season open, and I think he's ready to go. And they've been experimenting with him in different formations.
Were you looking at somebody play? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rich. You said Thursday. Were you looking at somebody who's playing Thursday, or were you reading the name Cole Kmet?
Because that's what I was going to make a joke about. I was like, well, of course he's not expected to play Thursday. The Bears play on Sunday.
Okay,
I'm thinking the Bears had 2 Thursday night preseason games. Was it a report from a preseason game?
That could have been it.
That must be what that's from.
Hall of Fame was
okay,
guys. The Chiefs game. Yeah.
That's my bad. Okay,
you're good.
Looks like
you just freaked me out more in real life than anything.
Yeah.
I had one more honorable mention just because Arizona, I don't think their defense has really shaped up yet. I think Dalton Kincaid is probably a really good week 1 tight end starter. In general, I think Brandon and I talked about it. Dalton Kincaid is going to be used a lot like Evan Ingram or Travis Kelce this year as like just this big slot receiver kind of offline. I don't think, and if who's their really Dawson Knox? Is that their really reliable tight end for the last few years? I think they put Dawson Knox in much more passing blocking situations and run blocking situations. So when Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox is in there, I think you're going to use Dalton Kincaid like that big flex wide receiver. Josh Allen doesn't have any trustworthy targets as of yet, so like if Khalil Shakir or Keon Coleman have a big game, great. And that's going to be kind of like a random, surprise, pop up for you. But I think the most reliable player, period, fantasy wise in the Buffalo team is going to be Dalton Kincaid, that or James Cook. But as a receiver, I think Dalton Kincaid's your best just pass catcher on that team as of right now, week 1, week 2. So if you get to start basically a flex, quick, big tight end as a slot wide receiver for 3 weeks in Dalton Kincaid, and that's like your tight end, I think you're basically starting a third receiver at tight end for the first 2 weeks with Dalton Kincaid and Buffalo. So that's like my secret. I don't think anybody's not starting Dalton Kincaid, but if you did, I think I'd feel really good about it.
I agree with you, David. I think Kincaid has this sounds crazy, guys, but I'm going to stick to it. I've said it a few times in the last couple of months. I think Kincaid has a possibility of finishing as the best pass catcher over this season on that team. I do. You saw Evan Ingram led the Jaguars last year in receptions. He had 114. He was a top 5 player. I think Kincaid's playing that same role. He's the reliable piece. He's already the veteran after being there for a year. So I think he might finish with the most yards receiving on that team. Man.
I think if you're running like a bunch set and you got Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and Dalton Kincaid, I think Kincaid's probably your interior man. Other 2 flare out, start blocking. Kincaid gets that ball. I think that's like your extended handoff type of situation, your easy yards. I think you're going to Kincaid.
He was good last year. I mean, he showed that he was going to be a good player.
Agreed. And he's a little bit like he's bigger, but he seems quick. So Kincaid. I don't think if anybody was debating on starting a different tight end over Dalton Kincaid, I don't think you have any issues there. So
I agree with you.
All right, boys. Any last comments? We'll do kickers and log out of here.
Yeah, well, just real quick for a sleeper, guys. I know
I'm totally fucking with you guys. We're not doing kickers, by the way.
I was like, geez, kickers. Okay.
I was gonna just sit out of that. No, a guy that's probably rostered in every league should be, and you're probably gonna wonder when do I start him. This is my sleeper pick. The guy that he's 100% owned in fantasy, but I'm sure there's a lot of skepticism around whether or not you should use him right away. Malik Neighbors is playing the 32nd ranked pass defense from last year. They were quietly the worst pass defense in the NFL. I like Malik Neighbors to get the ball in every way they can. There's no more Saquon Barkley there, who was like 46% of their offense. They finally got themselves a guy who can give the ball and he will make a play with it himself. I like Malik Neighbors touching the ball an awful lot this week, and I like him getting in the end zone.
I like that. I worry just because it's the Giants and generally speaking, but yeah, I agree with you. I think he has to be started just because of the touches and everything like that. I mean, even if it's like screens, you catch a 1 yard screen for 6 yards. That's a good point.
Dable's going to find a way to get him the ball.
And I think the shorter range, quick passes, slants, screens, I think the better. And Dable knows that. Leave the decision making out of Daniel Jones's mind.
He's probably the most athletic player in this year's draft. Neighbors, if you give him a screen and you block in front of him, he'll take care of it.
I feel so bad for that guy.
Yeah,
he was making millions of dollars playing football. I mean, whatever. But like in terms of the football situation, I feel so bad. He's just so screwed.
He's gonna want the ball. That's for sure.
Who's the backup in New York this year?
The quarterback.
I think it's still the Italian guy,
Tommy Cutlets.
Yeah,
Tommy DeVito.
Who was Chase Brown's quarterback at Illinois?
Was he now? Interesting. I feel. I was gonna say it, but like this is a random aside. If you guys got 1 minute to hear it out, I think the Jets are just going to be so solid this year because even if Aaron Rodgers goes down, you got Tyrod Taylor. I'm sorry,
Drew Lock. Sorry.
Oh shit, Jesus. Oh no, that might be worse.
I think I'd rather go with DeVito in that case, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
Huh.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, I just a random like thought process was just, man, the Jets, even if Aaron Rodgers goes down for like 4 weeks, I was like, Tyrod Taylor is just fine.
Well, Garrett Wilson is just a monster. And so
that was gonna be one of my mentions, but I think he's playing a solid Niners. Yeah, you just can't start Garrett Wilson if you can avoid it. I mean, it's the Niners, but thanks, Paulie. Ed Buckley, Shakir will not be a surprise to me if he goes off. That's why I stole him late. Yeah, Shakir was going really late in my draft as well, and I really missed out on him. In terms of yards per play, and I believe it's in overall efficiency, he was more efficient towards the end of the year than Stephon Diggs was. So yeah, I'm with you on the Khalil Shakir bandwagon. I think it's just a young leg, and Josh Allen, for some reason, for a guy who throws really hard and really far, loves throwing to small dudes. Just kind of doesn't really make sense. It's like the smaller the target, the better he hits it. I can't imagine. I'd love to see a Mike Evans body type with Josh Allen just to see what the hell that looks like. But we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
Keon Coleman's a big boy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Keon Coleman's like 6'4", 6'3", 220. So let's hope. I actually looked this up. He's the exact same size as Roma Dunze.
Is he really?
Yeah. Height, weight.
What about arm length?
2 millimeters shorter. Nice.
2 millimeters. They measured it down to 2 millimeters. Holy shit.
I don't fucking know.
Oh, fuck.
I don't know. But you believed it.
See that clip of Keon Coleman throwing the balls with all the quarterbacks in the draft?
I did.
The guy throws like a 65-yard ball in the air, man.
Yeah, no, that was good. That was a good clip. I mean, Keon Coleman's just internet gold at this point. Protect him at all costs. Yeah, Rodgers going down week 1. At this point, I don't even hate. Rodgers sucks. I don't even care. Like if he does well, that's fine. If not, I want Jordan Love going down week 1. But yeah. Yep. Sounds good to me, boys. I think at this point, it's crazy how much we had to talk about. I didn't expect this show to go that long. I expected much more of a 30-minute, 45-minute show today, just mostly because of lack of things that we can say in terms of matchups, because who the hell knows what these teams are going to actually look like when week 1 rolls around. I think we'll be a little bit more accurate and, I don't know, concrete with our opinions as the weeks go by. But yeah, anybody who tuned in yet again, thank you so much. I never really expect anyone to care what I say or, anything about football. So any opinions that are,
David.
I appreciate that, Brandon. You can patronize me whenever you want. But yeah, no, I appreciate anybody who's willing to listen. Thank you so much. We will definitely see you next week, and tune in, Bearskis. Anybody who watches Bearski, we'll have hopefully one more show before the season, some Tennessee Titans preview, and kind of break down that prediction. So we'll see you guys sooner. And
real quick, David, guys,
Yeah,
you can find me at Chicago Sports Podcast Monday night at 9:00. You can also find me on the 4-Star Chicago Sports Monday night at 6:00. And then moving forward every Tuesday here to break down some fantasy with David.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Please, if you're not already, please follow Brandon. We found him, kind of randomly, and he's been awesome with us and very, very good and workable. So please support Brandon anywhere that he is talking. So thank you guys again for, coming in on a Tuesday. See you guys next week, and we'll be in touch.
All right.
All right, boys. Take care.